Geostorm released this month, and I'm sure we're all very excited about that. I'll be honest, about 9-10 years ago, I had a real fondness for large-scale disaster movies, not because I believed they were good, but because they were nonsense. They're dependable, because no matter the disaster film, things will smash, big things will fall down, that is a constant, and so if I were in the particular mood to watch things fall down, disaster movies always scratched that itch. But that was 10 years ago, and now, watching the sheer derivative checklist unfold in Geostorm made my prime 25 years of age feel like 63. Geostorm aged me as I watched it.
You realize you're committing treason?
Oh yeah, I kidnapped the president, I've stolen state secrets. Yeah, anything I'm forgetting, honey?
Honey.
Hold on!
Marry her.
The Housemaid had its UK release this month, and being the huge fan of Asian horror that I am, this is definitely objectively interesting for everyone, and not just me, definitely. More to the point though, I deliberately seek out any horror releases from the East, but even for those with minor exposure to this niche will no doubt be familiar with many of the reoccurring themes: vengeful spirits, hair, curses. Those are very shallow examples, but they are, I'd say, the most recognisable. I mention this because The Housemaid is unlike a lot of its contemporaries, less traditional Asian themes and visuals with more of a European Gothic horror style to it. A grandiose estate, ghostly appearances from the deceased Lady Camille dressed in a black veil, a forbidden romance, murder, subterfuge. But the 1950s Vietnam setting and culture enhances these tropes to create something that feels far more unconventional, for lack of a better word. And honestly, on a more basic level, I just love Lady Camille because I love me an old-fashioned ghost in a black veil cackling as she does evil things, because boy does she love being an evil ghost. For the main chunk of this episode, I wanted to focus on what is debatably the biggest release for February, but certainly what was most important to me. When I went to see Blade Runner 2049, it was in an art centre cinema with a relatively small screen, which immediately worried me as I felt like I'd be missing a core part of the experience when it came to the scale of the world in 2049. It didn't matter, though. This is something that I had experienced a few years prior when the original Blade Runner was showing in cinemas for one day only. Again, a small screen, and when booking my tickets I was forced to get a seat one row from the back. The screen seemed so far away that it felt like the specific experience of seeing Blade Runner in the cinema would be lost. But the second it started, it didn't matter. Just like with 2049 after it, the scale of this world, the drawn-out lengths of each shot, the colour, the wide angles, the sound took over my senses, and the edges of the screen just bled away. And 2049 was no different.
Every leap of civilization was built off the back of slaves. Replicants are the future, but I can only make so many.
The absolute imposing majesty of these dirty industrial skylines was so striking and uncharacteristically beautiful that they felt gigantic, regardless of how small they were being projected. And now, with the Blu-ray release, the same applies to the TV screen. There's an ongoing debate as to whether Blade Runner 2049 is too slow and overlong, or brilliantly meticulous. I can only speak for myself, but I'm of the latter. The drawn-out lengths of each shot, the quiet scenes favouring expression and movement over explicit dialogue, the droning and often unpleasant industrial soundtrack, all works to create such an oppressive mood that permeates each scene. Characters and their desire for answers, for closure, for purpose, so insignificant and yet so high in concept. Blade Runner 2049 is bleak. It's dour, oppressive, and often unpleasant, yet with characters searching for a glimmer of purpose, for truths, for ways to understand themselves in a world too large. It requires a good deal of patience, but I would highly recommend it.
This breaks the world.
We have to go.
I'm coming with you.
Where is he?
The future of the species is finally unearthed.